Hi there, once again, another installment of the song, which is the second book in the Singer Trilogy by Calvin Miller. And we are on chapter 9 today, so let's begin. Science can change the compound states of matter easier than it can change its mind. The student, known as Everyman, was indeed a troubled youth, but grateful for the wind and rain. Though he often hungered to be free, he was not among the 1,000 who had been unchained. He accepted all the sciences as truth, but rejected all ideas that Earthmaker could exist. Yet he sometimes wished such mystic falsehoods true. For those who claimed to be unchained seemed so naive to Everyman, and yet they seemed to own contentment he had never managed in pursuing all his sciences. He could not make himself believe that Singer was the Father Spirit's son, nor did he trust the rumor that the Singer had returned to life. Yet the Singer haunted all his idle hours. Everyman's great appetites were of the heart. He tried to sate his hunger by devouring the philosophies and sciences he loved. He read the poems of the priests and mountain gods, but their verses seemed as rigid as the columns of their temples. He read the woman's scroll, but rejected all her rules and altar laws. And now, in the upheaval that spread outward from the city walls, men everywhere rejoiced that the Singer had returned and that the golden age had come. Everyman was reading from a scroll called The Reason of Emptiness, while he lay on a grassy slope of summer. "Hello!" cried out a voice from somewhere behind him. "What do you read?" Everyman looked up, and then he looked back at his book. He said, "I read of reason." "What reason?" queried the approaching youth. "The reason that teaches Terra made herself when there were civil wars among the stars." "And do you think it is true?" the stranger asked when finally he reached it by... Let me read that part again. "And do you think it true?" the stranger asked when finally he reached his side, a little out of breath. "How can I tell? Come now, let us not begin with our philosophies, but with our names. I am Everyman." "And I am Sargon." "And tell me, Sargon, do you believe?" "Yes," said the handsome youth. "I believe in all I am and nothing else. I believe in eating when I hunger, loving when I lust, and sleeping when I weary of the game. But of the current madness of the Father Spirit has a living son who sings?" Sargon laughed. "It's a myth for ignorance to feed upon. You surely do not seek to be unchained?" he asked sarcastically. 1,000 were, they say, upon the 3rd of Creos when the wind blew. "And do you think that you should feel guilty just because the Singer died?" asked Sargon. "No, of course I don't. It's just..." "What?" "Well, those unchained seem filled with what I lack somehow." "They are," replied Sargon. "They are filled with madness. Be grateful that you lack what they are filled with." "Perhaps," said Everyman, staring vacantly into the distant sky. "Do you believe the Singer came alive again?" "No, not at all. I know the man who buried him, you see. His grave is in a country field." "Then let us go and dig him out, and show the unchained men of Terra their great folly and absurdity." Sargon blushed. Well, he stammered much before he finally spoke. "The grave, I must regret, lies far away. We have not time enough to travel there today," he finally explained. He quickly changed the subject. "It's just as well, believe me. Could you, good scientists, believe that terror was created when the singers sang in open space and let all matter out of nothingness? No, I'll trust the scholars there. The singer did not sing to make the trees. Trees gathered up their being from the seas. I know that when we get the gods involved, no scientific issues are resolved. But then why do I hunger for more than I am fed from all the scrolls of science?" "You hunger," Sarkon said, "for something else. Come, let us fill our bellies, so our minds will not be restless, nor our hearts. I know women who can make philosophy an elementary matter. When lust has eaten at the table of desire, you will be satisfied again. When the flesh feeds itself, the hunger of the spirit is forgotten." Sarkon stood. He was quite practical, it seemed to Everyman, who was tired of study. Everyman also thirsted for the taverns of the city, where he and Sarkon could forget their emptiness of soul. Everyman then stood, and as he stood, he said, "Let's go and worship at the temple of indulgence till all our appetites are full." And then he added, "Tomorrow, Sarkon, could you take me to the man you spoke about, the man who laid the singer in the grave?" Sarkon looked away and paused, but finally he said, "Tomorrow I will take you there." Chapter 10. At stonings, angels stand apart and weep above the martyr's groans. But demons always grin and keep both hands grasping, filled with stones. As Sarkon and Everyman came through the city gates, a street minstrel was singing to a crowd. Sarkon despised the poor who listened to the balladeer. "Do you know the man who sings?" asked Everyman. "His name is Anthem," answered Sarkon, with no apparent interest. "Isn't he the street singer who sang the day the wind came from the mountain?" "He is, but be careful, friend, or he will have your science in his pouch. You'll be dancing to his tunes." They passed so near the street singer they could hear the verses of his song. "Come to the singer, you science-stained. Cry for the crime and be unchained. Here in the great invader's reign." The people who watched him as he sang joined him in his simple melody. Sarkon reached down and found a heavy stone and hurled it. The rock struck Anthem's forehead such a blow he almost fell unconscious. The song abruptly stopped. The little group of street balladeers closed around him as a shield. Everyman, incensed by Sarkon, turned on him and shouted, "Why did you do that?" "He sings a lie," said Sarkon. "But still he is a man. Have you some grudge that makes you hate him? Are there reasons other than his song?" "None. Come, the tavern is a better place to talk," said Sarkon. As they were leaving, Anthem was revived, and Everyman could hear him singing once again. "Come, Tara, let us sing of love and the broken hand and the ragged glove. For ours is to be set free, unchained, and given destiny." How can he sing? Thought Everyman. He wanted to turn back, but he placed his hand on the latch to the tavern door. Chapter 11. Love is substance, lust illusion. Only in the surge of passion do they mingle in confusion. Dawn came swiftly on the eve of lust, When Everyman awoke, his head was in the bosom of a maid. "Did I satisfy you, Everyman?" she asked. "Last night you did," he answered. "But now I hunger again." "For food, or love, or books?" she asked in deep sincerity. "For none of these. For something more, if something more there be." And then he asked, "Where's my young and godlike friend? Still with his maid?" "Which maid?" "5 went to him last night. His science is his appetite, ever eating, never full." "Did he say that?" asked Everyman in disbelief. "Oh, no," the maid replied. "The thought was mine. He is a handsome rogue, but every night he prowls the taverns of the street and preys upon such souls as he may meet. Few tell him no. It's strange. Few like him, though. None resist him long. He never drinks or sleeps alone. Do you like him, Everyman?" "Well, no, I guess not," he said, "though I never thought of it till now. Tell me, maid, do you know a balladeer named Anthem? The crazy man who sings to rabble in the streets." "You know him, then? Where does he live?" "Why, right above this tavern," she replied. Chapter 12. Appetites ignored revolt and break the windows of the shops to get at food. But hunger of the soul grows weak with malnutrition and begs a crust of spirit. The steps that waited on the upper room were old and rickety, but Everyman ascended them, hesitated, then knocked. "Come in," said Anthem as he opened wide the door. "Are you not Sarkon's friend?" he asked. "As he has friends," he said, and then went on. "I cannot tell you why I've come, and yet I feel those who threw their stones at you were evil men." The new scar glistened even in the scanty light of Anthem's room. "Sarkon's an ugly man and capable of ugly deeds." Everyman was puzzled. "I thought Singerians never criticized another man." Anthem could not bring himself to share with Everyman the truth. He knew the young man could not believe it all so soon. "You did not come to dress my wound or tell me you were sorry for the injury." "No, I have come because I've gorged and baptized every appetite in full indulgence, and I am hungry still," said Everyman. Earthmaker has a living son who fills all emptiness above the brim. "So I have heard, yet I have evidence. The singer is a fraud. Tonight the riddle will be solved, for I will meet the man who laid young Singer in the grave. He put his mangled body in the ground the night the great machine fell off the wall, and nothing has disturbed his grave." "Did Sarkon promise you the introduction?" Anthem asked. "He did, in fact," Everyman replied. "The digger of the singer's grave is his close friend." Anthem was puzzled by the proposition. What was Sarkon's hope in using such a falsehood? He walked to a table piled high with scrolls and scratched some hasty words on a piece of parchment. "Here. When you meet the digger of the singer's grave, open this folded scrap of paper and read aloud the words. But do not open it or read it until then." "I do not understand." "You may quite soon," said Anthem. They left the room together and stepped into the streets. Anthem began to sing, and Everyman went back to the fields to study science and hope Sarkon would come by early afternoon. He was not disappointed. Chapter 13. A magician pulls bunnies out of empty hats. An evil lord pulls reptiles out of dark and dank crawling pits and places writhing muddy serpents in the cradles of infant saints. When Sarkhan appeared, he was naked to the waist. The muscles of his shoulders glinted bronze beneath his strong neck and bold head. He bore a disguise with the arrogance of self-assurance. "Sarkhan," Everyman exclaimed, "you are a god indeed." "Ha ha ha," the handsome youth responded. "The gods are dead, remember? Now there is only science and yearning appetite. How did you find your maid last night?" Everyman looked down. "I only loved her while I lusted, and then I hated her for making me recall. I am never satisfied for long." "What are you reading from your sciences today?" the churlish Sarkhan probed. "Today I'm reading the scroll called The Reason of Substance. Did you know that the small stone I prop my foot against is a seething mass of whirling orbs, each with its tiny lightning storms and milky ways?" "So I have heard, Everyman. And are the tavern maids composed of such minutiae? Of dancing, shooting particles of stars, of spinning micro-worlds, tearing orbits in the center of their bosoms, and fleeting beams of small galactic storms?" "You've read the rules of science," said Everyman in glee. "Enough to know that we are but a gathering of micro-suns, fast-moving asteroids that whirl at lightning speed. But evening's soon, and we must get to the taverns once again." "Before we go, you promised me an introduction," Everyman reminded him. "I did." "Yes, you said that I might meet the man who laid the singer in his grave." "Oh, yes, him." Sarkhan grimaced, and then with added certainty acquiesced. "Very well, young scientist. You shall meet the man, indeed. He's buried many singers, I can tell you, friend. His shovel never rusts. Come this way." Everyman still marveled at the handsome Sarkhan, looking yet as though some sorceress had blessed a statue in the temple and set it free to tread the planet and give the gaping men of Terra an exhibition of divinity. Then Everyman remembered that in his view of things there were no gods. How he wished there were. He followed Sarkhan down a rocky path into a grove of trees where the afternoon sun fell in splotches on the ground. In the scarcity of light, he saw an old man sitting by a rough wood shack. As he looked upon the old man, he felt once more the crumpled parchment in his pocket and wondered if there would be ample light to read it when the time should come. "My lord Sarkhan," said the old man. "Shh!" said Sarkhan in reply. "I've brought a visitor with me today." Everyman cupped his hand before his mouth and whispered to his handsome friend, "Why did he call you lord?" "He's an old fool," Sarkhan answered, and then he said, "Old man, this is a friend of mine. Let's not pretend this afternoon. He wants to know if you're the man who laid the singer in the grave." "I am, my lord Sarkhan." The old man turned his head away and fidgeted. He had used the forbidden word again. "Yes, I took him from the wreckage of the great machine and buried him in a rocky field not far from here." "But," protested Everyman, "the singer's followers all say his body was never found, though all the wreckage had been searched. In fact, they teach he came alive again." "They are liars," said the old man. "I buried him, and 2 weeks later his grave was as I left it. He is still there. Here's all of him, and that I have left. Here's all of him that I have left." The old man pulled a broken lyre from beneath the crude wood bench he sat on. Somehow I sense, objected Everyman, that you are right, and all Singerians are fools. But I can see so little falseness in them. I think they do believe they tell the truth. I tell you, argued the old man, I buried him, and he is dead, and all Singerians are liars and fools. Each successive word expressed his rising anger. To Everyman, the time seemed right to pull the parchment from his pocket. Sargon shifted his weight from one foot to the other as Everyman read the strange words. In the name of Earthmaker, Father Spirit of the Singer, be what you really are. They were strange words indeed to Everyman, but no sooner had he read them than the old man fell forward on the broken instrument. For a moment he lay silent on the ground. Then an ugly reptile lay in the old man's place. The dragon hissed and moved toward Everyman. Bolt upright, Everyman stood stiff and ceased to breathe. Sargon was silent. Then he cleared his throat, and the dragon disappeared. Everyman relaxed and regained his composure, and then asked, Sargon, why did the old man call you Lord? Come, Everyman, the tavern's open soon. No, Sargon, I have seen what I needed to see. The scrolls have not allowed such things for me. Yes. Now I've hope. Your monster set me free. For if the dragons live, the gods may be. Lust alone tonight, Sargon. I do not know if the singer is alive, but I do know this. Your old friend never buried him. Sargon burned with anger as he walked away. He took 5 steps, stooped down, picked up a rock, and hurled it with more than human force. The sky swirled, and the blood ran warm across the face of Everyman. He slumped to the ground, unconscious, and in his great delirium were sweeter dreams than he had ever dreamed before. In the midst of his concussion swam wondrous dragons and singers in the streets. Sargon would have killed him for the dreams if he had known the nature of his sleep. But he had other appetites to feed. There were tavern maids and other youthful scientists he labored to deceive. Chapter 14. I heard the ballad of a fool whose simple song made synonyms of life and death, and cursed the right and called it wrong. Come, play along the precipice. Don't worry that the cliff's steep. The little flowers on the brink are daisies, but their roots grow deep. The invader stirred within the drowsy anthem, and he could not sleep. He pulled his tunic on and then his shoes and hurried out into the night. His feet were given no instruction by his mind, and yet they fell in firm intention. At last the meadow hurried into trees, and soon became a grove so dense the starlight halted on the tops of leaves. He felt his way along in some denial of the mission that he could not comprehend, till in a clearing where no star shade fell, he saw a man lie wounded in the night. He approached and knelt in dust to lift the youthful head which lay face down on the earth. In a nearby stream he soaked his shirt and then lifted up the head and swabbed the dust and blood away. It startled him to realize the man in need was Everyman. When he had swabbed the face the second time, the youth awoke and muttered from the mist that was his mind. He sat upright and stared into the night. When finally his world merged with the one he sought to see, he knew the hand that cooled his brow was the singer that Sargon had stoned in his contempt. They shared a common wound. At last words broke at the stillness of the woods. Night's silence surrendered up its hush. "There are dragons," said Everyman. "Yes, The old man did not put the singer in his grave. No. Why did you come? The invader led me to you because the singer loves you. Are the singer and the invader one, as water and ice are one, or heat and fire? The singer came to be a man, then came again to be in man. The first time that he came, he was the troubadour, and the next, the wind song. Why did the old man change himself into a dragon? Asked Everyman. He did not. But I saw him do it here, tonight. He changed himself into a croaking, evil thing. That's only as it seemed. It was a dragon who had changed himself into a man. The words you read from the parchment scrap forced him to become what he has been through all time. A man cannot become a dragon, but a man may sometimes be a dragon in disguise. But here, tonight, he called Sarkon his lord. Sarkon is his lord, and he is the lord of all dragons, and every monster has the power of masquerade. Sarkon himself loves the mask, and now he plays the role of a mountain god. The first time we met, he was a piper who played an evil song to drive me mad. He was a piper then? No more a piper than a mountain god. He is his cloak, whatever garment suits his evil purpose. And what is his purpose? To smash the world the Father Spirit made and loves? He gloried in the singer's death and hates the very thought that the invader is the lover of all men. He told you that there were no gods? Yes. He tells others that there are, but he tells no one that Earthmaker is the father of the troubadour. I dreamed in my delirium of dragons bold and singers in the street. Tell me of the song, said Everyman. So, Anthem sang in starlight the singer's story, and when he came to the singer's cosmic moments in the great machine, they both fell on their knees. What must I do to be unchained? Cried Everyman. Cry out your blindness and open to the wind. And every man wept into the night and sobbed his guilt. Earthmaker, I regret that your beloved died. I put away false scholarship and pride. Come, great invader, move inside. Once more the radiance grew from the stars, till the invader had buried them in gusty hurricanes of brilliance. And every man rejoiced to know the living singer who had smashed the fetters of his intellect and let his desperation out of hiding. I am unchained, he almost shouted. You are indeed, said Anthem. May I have the stigmon? So in the raging light storm of invaders' power, Anthem drew a handful of the new earth. He traced the singer's sign in the fiery luminescence of invader. It is only out of Terra's shame that men of Terra wear the name of singer, prince of planets, troubadour of life, earthmaker, singer, and invader be the substance of infinity. Every man surveyed the clot of earth he held and rejoiced to see the stain that symbolized the crushing pain of the machine. He stared into the glinting radiance and repeated through half-opened lips, Oh, man of Terra, fully know there is no depth he would not go to love. chapter 15. Yes, it was savage for the rifleman to ask the weeping mother which of her sons she would like to have shot first. But the greater cruelty is to ask the frightened child which of his parents he would least prefer to live. In the days that followed, Everyman and Anthem became brothers in the spirit. Everyman's deep resonance soon made singing in the streets an eloquent affair. Daily, as he finished the song, men and women, crying out to be unchained, received the stigmon Everyman offered it in the mystic magnetism of his melody. It is only out of terror's shame that men of terror wear the name of singer, prince of planets, troubadour of life. And he seemed to have a haunting subtle light behind his eyes, while the new earth fell from the hand of the unchained. Earthmaker, singer, and invader be the substance of infinity. But the grandest act of love for the singer was the singer's meal. Everyman ate the crushed bread and remembered the machine where the Prince of Planets bled. He never tore the wounded loaves, but that he swallowed hard in joy. Each time they met, they took the meal and said, "And now the great reduction has begun. Earthmaker and his troubadour are one." And here's the new redeeming melody, the only song that can set terror free. The shrine of older life must be laid by. Mankind must see Earthmaker left the sky, and he is with us. They must believe the song or die. From day to day they sang the star song in the streets and ate the singer's meal. In the homes and on the greens they offered everyone the chance to let the great invader into life. Those who were unchained from month to month received the stigmon. The days moved on, and winter came and then gave way to spring. Both Everyman and Anthem went from time to time into the great walled city and sang the ancient star song in the streets. They often saw young Sarkhan near taverns drinking ale with students as he pointed fingers at the pair and laughed. Once Sarkhan even sent a group of ruffians who seized their instruments and harassed them in the streets. But not until the month of Krios did destruction reach its apex. It happened on a sunny afternoon that an old woman entered the marketplace near the spacious plaza of humanity. She stood and spoke above the gathering crowd. "Men of Terra, remember that our joy is in the scroll of all the ages. Our fathers loved this city." She gestured to the gleaming bastions of the great walled city of the ancient king. "But the followers of the singer say that men must not love cities, for Earthmaker does not hallow stone and mortar. They cry against the songs the grand musician sings before the shrine of older life. They call our children to despise our customs and our creed. They say to the recent rains have come because the great invader came to end the drought of desperation. They teach that the great invader is the spirit of their singer, whom we hanged upon the battlements. They say their singer lives, and men should turn aside our heritage and follow him. They lie, she cried. The crowd grew restless as she poured contempt on all the singer's followers who seemed to fill the highways and the marketplaces. "I am the keeper of the scroll, yet Anthem and the heretic called Everyman tell everyone that I am a croaking dragon from the pit. They sing that men must turn from me and follow him who died and lives," she screamed in fury. "They tell our youth they must reject the scroll of ancient truth and follow these young rebels who try to turn poor Terra upside down with lies. They must be stopped. They are vermin in the temple of our glorious ancient truths. Let vermin die, our truth shall lie, destroyed by our own apathy toward the shrines of older life. They must be driven out, she gasped. All who teach that I am dead and thus to be despised. Let's strike down Everyman and his agnostic crowd, till all men believe again that I do live and hold the only scroll of truth. Quickly, Sarkhan volunteered to lead the group into the heresy-infested ghettos of the city. As they moved through the streets, many in the angry crowd picked up stones. "Where is Anthem?" said Sarkhan to a little singing group they encountered in the streets. "We know not, brother," answered all the young Singarians. "Do you believe the woman is alive and that she owns the great brown scroll of the only truth there is?" Sarkhan probed. "No," replied a youth in simple openness. He did not know the storm his honesty was shortly to unleash. "No, I don't. She died a year ago before a village well. That bent old woman is a dragon from the pit." "Blasphemy!" croaked an old voice in Sarkhan's retinue. Sarkhan grabbed the young man by the throat and screamed in red contempt. "Infidel, you dare to call the mother of our faith a dragon from the pit?" He struck the youth, who staggered backwards in such force he fell across an old Singarian who was kneeling in the dust. They both sprawled in the street. "And you, old man, do you believe the singer is alive?" Sarkhan shouted down in anger. "I do," the man replied, but the strong and brutish foot of Sarkhan fell with crushing force into his abdomen. Sarkhan kicked him again full in the face. Blood from his mouth coursed through his silver beard. Unconsciousness delivered him from pain. In fury, then, the crowd that Sarkhan led fell on the group of singers with clubs and stones. A little girl who saw her mother bludgeoned grasped her bosom just before a flying stone in mercy made her sleep. When the assailants had withdrawn, no singers moved, for most of them were still unconscious in the street. Then some began to stir, each reaching out to others and offering strength and help. Two never rose. The old man hemorrhaged and died. The woman who received the crushing blow lingered till the night. Then peacefully she died. When her daughter woke, she cried. "Have you a father, little girl?" an old Singarian asked. Her vacant eyes said no. "I'll find someone to care for you. Come with me tonight," he said. When word of the assault reached Everyman and Anthem, the awful burden of the song began to settle on their leaden hopes. The lamp burned low while they groaned the pain that seared their souls. They saw the ugly storm they knew would come by day. They ached in knowing those who died were but the first. The star song stuck in their throats, and nothing issued out except a lamentation. "Oh, Father Spirit, must truth be vanquished by the lie? Must orphans watch their mothers die? Must children whimper, old men sigh and groan? Hear us, for we cry." As they lifted up a crushed loaf of bread to share the singer's meal, light began to flood the table where they sat. The invaders swept throughout the darkened room till every niche was born in brilliance. Anthem and Everyman fell upon their knees. Fire played upon the plaster of the lamp-smudged wall, and where it danced a vision grew. In the vision a behemoth red dragon, chained by its great clawed feet, stood among such temples as Anthem had not seen before, but Everyman knew them well. Behind the dragon he could see the giant gates of Urbis. While they watched in horror, the beast devoured a peasant. Then presently the monster roared and leered from Urbis into the very souls of Everyman and Anthem. For a moment the dragon looked like it would leave the vision and walk into the little room they kept. It leered from Urbis and yet stared into their souls. Then presently it froze, turned to stone, toppled, and lay dead. Everyman and Anthem beheld themselves beneath the dragon, armed with bloody swords. The vision fell away. The invaders stirred warm inside them as the brilliance faded till all the light was gone, except for one small lamp that burned on the table where they sat. "Do you know the city that we saw?" asked Anthem. "Urbis," said Everyman. They knew that they must leave the village near the great walled city of the ancient king. Their destiny lay across the Silver Sea in the city of the west. Urbis, capital of Terra, a city where the old woman in her scroll had never been believed. Urbis, the shining temple city of all the mountain gods. They consorted with the leaders of the Singerian choirs and then made ready for their voyage. Months, like foam, flew by beneath the keel. Creos came and went, but not their zeal. The song thrived well in salt breeze and halcyon seas. And that is all for today. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May He make His face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and grant you His peace.